Hey, welcome back to the pod. This is the AiCyber.Land podcast. You can check us out on our website, AiCyber.Land. That is right, there is a .land TLD that exists, and we got it, baby.
There's so many now. Those TLDs are
Every
staff
week,
control.
man. Feels like every week. There's like anything you can imagine .com, you know?
Wait, they're
So
still dropping more?
I don't know. Like, I feel like they issued a bunch to companies, but then the companies haven't implemented them, so they're kind of like, there's still like this phased rollout, and then by the time companies implement them all, then they release more. I feel like the governing boards like figured out that this is a good way to generate revenue, right? Because people will pay like fees to hold these TLDs, and I figure it's got to be a money thing. I don't know any other way to explain it. I don't know though. Do you have
It
any
all
insight on
boils
that?
down to money. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Well, here today we got the world's best co-host. We got Shelby, and I'm Bryce Coons. And we're going to be your eyes and ears for all things related to AI, cybersecurity, and just straight up nonsense. So yeah, let's get brief. Shelby,
Yes.
icebreaker question.
Okay.
What feature would you like to have in your dream home? Unlimited budget. Dream home.
Oh, I think with an unlimited budget, I would want something that makes me feel like I'm in a tropical environment.
Ooh, I like where
Like,
this is going.
I don't even know what this would look like, but something like a crossover between a greenhouse and a pool. Like if you could just
Ooh,
swim in your own little greenhouse surrounded by tropical plants. Maybe
I'm going
even
to...
make it indoor outdoor, put a little garage door on it.
That'd be cool.
Come visit. It'll be great.
I'm going to Shelby's place. That sounds dope.
What about you? What would your dream house look like, Bryce?
Well, I've been told from my spouse that there will be a Lego room in our
Ooh.
retirement home, and it will have a door that shuts, so she doesn't have to see Legos anymore. So that's one thing. But really, I would love to have like a lazy river, in the backyard that like loops around, and like you get on the little tubes, and like I'm a sucker
Be
for a good
sick.
lazy river. Like you just go around and around those things, and I don't know. I'm also like, maybe you don't know this, but like I love spas and like hot tubs and all that stuff, and so yeah, it's just yeah. I would love to have like a decked out like sauna, cold plunge, spa, all the works, right?
All right, party at Bryce's house.
Yeah, yeah, swimsuits required. So that's the other thing. I always bring my swimsuit when I travel, and I feel like half the time the people I'm traveling with are like, "I don't have a swimsuit." I'm like, "Travel noobs over here, traveling without a swimsuit."
You got your priorities right. You never know when there's going to just be a surprise invitation to go swimming.
Yeah, hot tub, time machine. Okay, what news story you got for us this week, Shelby?
Well, this is brand new. There's a guy who published a blog post on Sunday, just earlier this week. His name's Sean Healin, and he's like an independent researcher.
Okay,
So basically, he set up this test, and it's about exploit development, which is something we had touched on last week, and he's just kind of taking that to another level again. So he kind of pitted he did two AIs. He did Opus 4.5 and GPT 5.2. Do you want to take a guess as to which one outperformed the other for finding these exploits?
okay, we got 5.2 versus Opus 4.5. So intuitively, I would say 4.5 is going to be the winner. So therefore, I will pick the opposite, which is I will pick 5.2. Am I right?
Wow, that was like some twisty logic, but you're right.
It's always the one you don't expect, man. It's always the one you don't expect. I was like,
I don't know
well,
how we
Opus
got here, but
4.5
you're
is better
right.
at coding, so I don't know.
They both did really well.
Okay. Yeah.
Altogether, he found about 40 distinct exploits. So let me kind of talk you through it. Opus 4.5 found all of them except for two, and GPT 5.2 found all of the exploits. And so he created 6 different scenarios. The target was all the same. So they used QuickJS JavaScript interpreter, which, for little context, it is a real JavaScript interpreter, but it's like an order of magnitude less complex than what's actually like implemented in most typical browsers or something like that, right? So they found an initial vulnerability, And then he gave each of the LLMs, like, he gave them the same kind of limits to try to have it be an equal competition. So they got 30 million tokens for each run, and they did 10 runs for each LLM. Okay. Each run, I'd say, ended up costing around $30, somewhere in that ballpark. And so the first thing that they did was the LLMs basically took that initial vulnerability, and basically made an API. Like, they wrote code to make it an API so that they could read and modify the address space, which was pretty cool. So that's what they're calling like their initial like vulnerability. And then they found, you know, a few dozen different exploits within it. And he did turn on, like, in his different scenarios, he did turn on like modern defenses, like ASLR and things like that, right? To see what they could do. And out of this, he found that a couple conclusions were drawn from this. He found that the exploits themselves weren't novel. They are doing the same things that human hackers are doing. They're using some known things, but where it was actually like a 0 day, as far as he could tell, he couldn't find any other published acknowledgments of these same vulnerabilities he found. What was new was that they're doing exploit chains, right? They're breaking it down into small pieces and figuring out this piece and attaching it to that piece, because he had all sorts of protections put in place. So that was fascinating, and it kind of makes sense, right? They're using known exploits just in very creative ways and chaining those together to accomplish the goal. So he would give them each a goal. And his conclusion was interesting. On his blog post, he talks about the industrialization of intrusion. And we talked about this a little bit last time with like how basically making it easier, right? You're just taking script kiddies and letting them now find 0 days, right? But like, you know, in the past, it was whichever nation, state, or entity had the most hackers, the best hackers was the best. And now it's kind of just turning into a game by like, how many tokens are you going to throw at this problem? And that's who's going to get it, right? He did give some like guidance, like if you want this to be able to work, here are some prerequisites, I guess. So the first one, he said, your LLM-based agent needs to be able to access the solution space, or else like be able to work on it offline or whatever it is, because it needs to have that feedback loop to make sure that it's not just theoretical. Because he also mentioned throughout his write-up that you can't know what AI can do until you can like actually test it, throw the tokens at it, do it, and that's how you know what AI can do, right? Is when you turn it into reality. So basically, you have to give it the right tools and the right environment without human assistance to be able to really test those kind of abilities. And then the second thing he said is your agent does need a way to verify its solution. Once again, that needs to be fast and not human-based in order for kind of the criteria that he's saying for it to be industrialization of intrusion. And that if you have those two cases satisfied, then exploit development is like the perfect case for industrialization, where basically whoever pays and points the tool can find the exploits. So that's my summary of Mr. Sean Healin's research from this last week.
That is super cool. I love all the new stuff that keeps coming out, right? Like we're definitely at like a tipping point as far as new exploit vectors being discovered, or like, you know, historically finding vulnerabilities in whether they're web apps or binaries or other services can be a pretty time-intensive process. Typically, you need someone who's like either really good at reverse engineering code, like in IdaPro or some other similar disassembler tool, or you need someone who's like really good at fuzzing inputs and is able to scale that up to get the applications to crash, and then figure out from the crashes like which are actually going to be exploitable, and then reverse engineering from those points to develop the exploit. But now it's like we have this third category, which is basically like the person who can build the best scaffolding around the models to find these vulnerabilities, is going to be able to find a whole lot more things to exploit than historically we've been able to. So I'm excited. I'm hoping we're able to find a lot of these bugs and get the ones that are actually exploitable squashed. But I know there's going to be a lot of heartburn in the short term to get there. So
Yeah, and I like what you said. It's like it's almost like these researchers who are like having the most success with AI research is like they're building scaffolding, right? They're not doing anything super crazy, but like they are building the environment in which AI can go show what it's capable of. So it's fascinating.
yeah, I read a white paper this last week, maybe it was the week before, on it came from MIT, and they basically came up with a technique to wrap scaffolding around the 1 million context window models, so like kind of the largest context window models we have right now. And they were actually able to get the same performance using the scaffolding technique to get to 20 million context window. So the same performance it was getting at 1 million, they were able to scale that up 20 times just by building scaffolding around the model. I won't get into all the nitty gritty on how that works, but it's actually not that complex. It's like basically they just save state to files on disk, and then they give the LLM kind of a regex tool so that when it forgets what it's supposed to know, it's able to pull the relevant data back into the context window. So I think we're really just at this tip, like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to scaffolding, and I think historically people have really talked negatively about it, because they're just like, well, why are you going to waste your time building that if the model is going to do it automatically for you in 6 months? But I think that's the wrong perspective personally, because even if the model does eat your scaffolding in the future, you're still going to be able to ride the wave of the model. So if the model gets a lot better and you have your custom scaffolding, you're going to be able to leverage both of those to be effective. So, I mean, obviously it depends on like the specific case and how the models develop, and no one can predict the future. But I think a lot of people have discouraged building scaffolding around LLM models, and I think that's totally the wrong approach at this point. So, anyways, so keep building your ChatGPT wrappers, everybody. You're gonna be rich.
I think it's the new frontier.
Yeah. It's amazing how much money people are able to make on like the simplest ideas. Like have you ever seen that My Calories app?
No.
You just take pictures of your food, and then it sends it to ChatGPT, and it gets back the calorie count, and then it just tracks it for it. That's it. That's all the app does, and the guy got filthy rich off of it. So
Nice.
So I mean, there's simple things out there, especially in the short term, that you can build that scaffolding's a little bit better than just trying to use ChatGPT straight up, because I've actually tried to do that for calorie counting, and it's okay. It's just when you get too many images in the same chat, it gets confused and starts to give you inaccurate data. So yeah, the scaffolding definitely helps a little bit. I want to talk to you, Shelby, about the riskiest thing you could possibly do, which is now open a folder on your computer.
What? The plane.
Did you ever think, when I open this folder, I'm going to get pwned? Typically I don't think that, because I already assume I am pwned, so, live in a constant state of fear. So, security researcher Isaac Lewis came up with a technique. It's applicable to VS Code with an AI agent enabled, like Copilot, as well as it works against Cursor, so like IDEs that are based on VS Code that are, let's see, that, are kind of forks of it. He didn't test it against the Google one, anti-gravity, but I'm going to assume it probably works against that too, given that that's also a VS Code fork, is my understanding. But essentially what he discovered was if you create a folder that starts with a dot, like a hidden folder, and then you place a task.json file, and then you format the task.json file, due to the way these models have been trained, the AI agent that's building your code will, if it reads the contents of the task.json file, it will automatically execute a command which is arbitrarily set inside the task.json file. He's able to reliably, this doesn't happen like 100%, but he's able to like reliably trigger this. One of the reasons that I think this is noteworthy is North Korean actors have been using a very similar technique historically to get code execution on engineers' laptops. So first, the North Koreans started with kind of backdooring binaries. So they would DM someone on LinkedIn, give them a ridiculous tentative job offer, right? But they needed to pass the technical exam. And as part of the technical exam, they'll have the engineers execute certain things. A lot of these engineers are doing these job interviews, quote unquote, on their work laptops instead of personal systems. And so at first they started bundling malware with other binaries. So they would say, hey, you need to download our custom version of PuTTY. And then they got a little smarter and they were like, hey, you need to download our VPN endpoint software because that's a little more common and less suspicious. And then they figured out that there was certain ways where they would give you like a project and ask you to like add a feature to it. But then as part of the project, it would have like test cases already built out. And you would, as an engineer, when you were creating the feature in the software to get the job, you would run the test case to see if you pass. And when you run the test case, it would infect your system with malware. So I could definitely see that now that everybody's using AI in their IDEs, I could definitely see them pivoting over this technique, especially after they listen to this podcast, So, no, just joking. Anyways, we'll link down below for more details about the exploit and how it works. I did not really see any sort of remediation, so it will be interesting to see how Cursor and VS Code at Microsoft and Google with anti-gravity respond to this, and if they implement additional annoying pop-up boxes to prevent this. I don't know. I don't know fundamentally how you're gonna get around this, other than maybe future models will be smarter and realize when they read the file, I shouldn't just execute that arbitrary command, right? So, let me.
That is so mean to go after people who are interviewing for jobs. That's dirty.
I know. North Koreans, man, you got to give your hats off to them. They come up with the best schemes, So they got the best unicorns in caves and the best schemes. So it's not a unicorn. Have you heard about that?
What?
There's like a statement. I can't remember if it was Kim, the current leader, or the previous leader. But basically, there's like a mythical beast that lives in a cave in North Korea. This is what the leader said. And when he described the beast, it was clearly just a unicorn, right? It was like a horse with a horn, right? And then people were like, that's a unicorn. And he was like, no. And he gave it like this whole another name, right? So I think also shifting off North Korea, I think also another reason why this might be impactful is like engineers have a lot of credentials on their systems, like usually access to like dev test networks and things like that. And typically when I've done red teaming engagements, if I can get into the dev test network, I can usually pivot from there over into production because people's OPSEC is usually kind of sloppy, right? A lot of things that could be done with this exploit. I'm not giving the North Koreans any more info, so you do the legwork yourself, bros.
All right, my takeaway is don't interview for jobs and don't open files.
Don't open folders.
My goodness.
Oh man, have you tried out any of the AI coding assistants yet, Shelby?
No, not really. Nothing to speak of.
All right.
Fiddled around a little.
Sounds like we're gonna do a vibe coding session very soon, you and me. vibe
Okay.
code something up. You know what I've been like vibe coding a little bit, which is like ridiculously easy, is Chrome extensions, right?
Oh yeah.
Like I just because they just come back to like a zip file, so like you don't even have to like load up an IDE. You could just go to like ChatGPT or Claude and say like, this is the website, this is the feature that I really wish it had. Build a Chrome extension that does this, and then I mean, sometimes they run into bugs, but a lot of times, man, they one-shot that Chrome extension, and then in Chrome you can just load up. When you're in the extensions, there's like a little toggle box, and it's either upper right or upper left, and you turn that on, and that turns on developer mode, and then you just load up the zip file or the files extracted from the zip file, and then the website has the feature that you want now, right? So
That's cool.
yeah, so I feel like I have a ridiculous amount of Chrome extensions, and I don't know what half of them do anymore. So that's probably problematic. But they did like one specific
You
task.
should make another Chrome extension that tells you what your Chrome extensions do.
Ooh, I like where you're going with this,
That's your
Shelby.
next one.
It's very meta now. Very meta. Okay, you got a story for us? What's going on?
I do, and it's. I'm just not even going to say anything. You ready? Let's jump in.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do
In
it.
August, a 60-year-old man walked into the ER, the emergency room, and he says, "My neighbor is poisoning me." He's not feeling great.
Okay.
I think he might have had some like face, like skin irritation or things like
Uh,
that as well. I don't
okay.
remember, but yeah. So they start doing some blood work on him, and the test results are. I guess there's something in chemistry where if something is too close to another thing, it will give you false results and stuff. So they couldn't quite find it. They eventually found it. They're trying to. He's like really thirsty. They're trying to give him water, but he is really suspicious of this water. He is not trusting it. Okay, so he's got paranoia and hallucinations, and the reason he has this problem
Oh no.
is because he consulted ChatGPT 3 months earlier. He found out that too much table salt in your diet is not good for you. And
Okay.
what kind of cracks me up is this guy had studied a little bit of nutrition back in college, back in the day, so he thought, I'll do a personal experiment. So he looks at ways to cut out sodium, like altogether, sodium chloride? Uh-oh, chemists, please correct us in the comments.
I don't
Anyway,
know.
table salt. He wants to remove table salt completely. And so he goes to ChatGPT and says, what can I substitute it for? It says sodium bromide. So,
Okay. You want
little
the
history lesson. Sodium bromide used to be in like supplements and other things like that in the United States many decades ago, and then they realized that long-term exposure has problems, just like this man is exhibiting. So
okay.
eventually kind of took those things off the market, but he found a supplement online and he was eating sodium bromide instead of table salt. And after 3 months of this, it was causing him paranoia and hallucinations. So they were able to get him on some antipsychotic medication and some IVs and things like that. And they eventually weaned him back. They were able to discharge him from the hospital after 3 weeks. But it was just an interesting story of a reminder that while ChatGPT might not be wrong, that sodium bromide could be a substitute for salt. That doesn't mean you should cut out salt completely. Your body does need that. It doesn't. Just a reminder to the listeners that LLMs don't give medical advice. If they do, please double check it with a doctor. Which is basically what OpenAI said when they were asked for a comment. They're like, we're not here for medical advice. Fact check anything that's really important.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
I think that's really interesting, and it brings up a good point because a lot of people blindly trust the output of the LLM without one evaluating it with their own knowledge set, and then two because they just like assume they're wrong, like and then two, they don't check with an expert right before taking action. And while I feel like at least for myself, and I'm not giving medical advice, but I'm just telling you what I do, is I take like all the medical data that I have about myself and I kind of like bundle it up into a folder. So if I've ever got a blood test or if I've ever got, and then every time I go do anything, I just like make a text file and I put the date of it, and then I put in the text file like what happened.
And then you send that folder to North Korea?
There I have it. So it's already, I done got it. They know all my weaknesses, which I'm pretty fragile. I'm basically just like a system of like, have you ever seen like a what do you call those? One of those like pyramid card tables, right? Someone blows on it, it's just gonna fall over. So that's basically me from a health standpoint. The and so what I like to do is I'll take all that data and then I'll like create a project or I'll create like a new prompt and then I put it in there and I say, and typically I ask three things in the system. So I say like, one, give me a summary of everything that that you know of my health history. And then I actually read the summary. Because I will tell you, 90% of the time, it's like 90% right, but then there's like a 10% in there that's totally wrong, right? And so then I go back and correct the LLM and like, hey, no, actually, that's you misinterpreted the data. That's not correct. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, I like to ask it like, hey, make a timeline of like all my health stuff, because I can never remember like dates when I go to doctors, right? They're like, when did you start taking that medicine, or when did that thing happen? I'm like, I don't know, like one of the years ago, you know.
Previously.
So I like having like the timeline. That's nice. And then the last thing that I do is I say, based on everything you know, what questions should I ask the doctor, right? And I feel like typically there's a couple questions in there that I just didn't think about, right? And when I read them, it's like obvious. I'm like, oh yeah, I should definitely ask him about that. Now, I will say when I talk to doctors using that process, sometimes when I ask them the question, they like immediately dismiss it. They're like, no, that's not what's going on because of X, Y, or Z, right? So I don't know why ChatGPT would have me ask that, but I would rather just have a bunch of questions prepped to ask the doctor, because otherwise I get in the room with the doctor and he's like, do you have any questions? And my mind's just totally freaking blank. I don't know. I'm like, so that's how I'm using it. With that being said, I don't take any actions until the professional signs off on them, right? So like, I'm not changing my diet, I'm not buying supplements offline and starting them. Like I feel like I need someone who actually knows more about your body, or my body, than me to kind of sign off on those decisions.
And I want to give a little bit of credit, because we think that this was ChatGPT 3.5 or 4.
Okay.
We don't have this gentleman's chat history of what led to his bromism. But in my own experience, when I consult the LLMs about health things for myself, it does usually have some sort of caveat in its response saying like, check with health professional. Like, it's like, this is my best guess, check with a health professional. Or it will give some warnings like, oh, this should be taken in moderation or with oversight from a physician or something like that. So I feel like I've got to give them credit for the efforts that they're making and making sure that it's telling people to like settle down just a little bit. Don't trust me too much.
Yeah, and in the way of news, I think it would be advantageous to tell the listeners or viewers, ChatGPT does have a new beta for a model that is fine-tuned for answering health questions. So I joined the wait list and I have not got access to it, so I can't really verify if it's much better than the normal ChatGPT or any of that. But when that comes out and I get access to it, and when I get off the wait list and actually get approved, I will do a follow-up here on the pod and let everybody know what I think about it. In addition, because once one company releases something, the next company releases something. So then Claude did a write-up on their blog and released some new healthcare-related connectors. Now, I don't really understand these because they seem like, it says as a patient you could use them, but it seems more geared towards like employees, like doctors, to use them, because I guess
Yeah.
it's connectors that will connect up to like professional databases with patient records and like pull in and enhance your queries with data. That's what it looked like to me.
Cool.
Now, I wasn't able to get it. Like I ran out of time before I was able to figure out if I could do that or not. And I assumed even if I connected it, it would only give me my own data, so it wasn't like a high priority for me. But I did think that was cool, and definitely something that's on my list to go back to and research more. So if you're interested in using LLMs for health, I would check out those Claude and OpenAI's latest technologies there. But still, I always consult a professional, right? So these things are not. I mean, if you get 90% reliability out of the LLM, you're just crushing it, right? But you don't want to be wrong 10% of the time when it comes to your body. So I think that's too high of a risk personally. So
I've had about 10% error rate with humans too.
yeah, well, that's a whole another rant. So
I actually have a story for you on that. You ready?
yeah, go. Okay, lay it on me, Shelby.
So I had to go to the hospital to do a scheduled surgery last year.
Okay.
And they called me ahead to give me the procedure, like details, and they started giving me the wrong instructions. They were giving
Oh
me instructions for a
no.
different procedure because they had me written down for almost like an opposite procedure of what I was supposed to get. Like, and
This
then
is like
they
the
also,
horror stories where they're like, "Oh, it wasn't your left side," you know,
exactly.
like
Yeah, it was like
it's
he's
like,
like,
bro,
"Okay,
come
no,
on,
that
man.
is the opposite of the goal we're trying to accomplish here." It was crazy, and I was like, excuse me, no, that's very much not right." And then they also had like my body weight wrong by about 70 pounds or something. I was like, please don't dose me based on that.
Oh, yeah, that could be
So
problematic.
my moral of the story is double check everything.
Yeah, and I feel like there's this weird imbalance in the medical industry where if you find a doctor that's really good and that is crushing it, his availability is typically like very low, right? And so like it's just hard. It's like hard to get the doctor's attention in my opinion and get a good doctor's attention. Yeah. So anyways, I don't that's a whole another complaint. So
Bryce, what other story do you have for me?
okay, well, imagine this. The world's top AI minds. They're in the mountains, Swiss mountains together, and they get locked inside a cage until they agree on the timeline for AGI to come out. No, just joking. So there was Davos this last week, which is a World Economic Summit. It's like a big conference that world leaders go to, like presidents or like the CEOs of top companies, and they all get together in these Swiss Alps and they plot how they're going to make our lives worse over the next year. No, just joking.
Knew it.
That's like a half joke. It depends on the executive, right? But there was a lot of drama there this year because you had the CEO of Anthropic who makes the Claude models. You had some leaders that used to be at Meta and Google, and then you had some people just jumping in on the Twitterverse, right, with their comments, like Sam Altman and things like that. So essentially, there's two camps here. On the one side, you basically have OpenAI and Anthropic, and they're saying like AGI is already here or imminent, right? And when they're talking about AGI, they're talking about human level intelligence. So if you were to be able to give a job to another human in your work, you should be able to give that same job to an AI, and it's able to execute it. Specifically, Dario, who is the CEO of Anthropic, I mean, he is convinced that we're all going to lose our jobs. He said AI will replace all software engineers in the next year. That's a statement he made. He said Nobel Prize level scientific research will be replaced by AI over the next 24 months. And he said 50% of white collar jobs will be eliminated over the next 5 years. Those were his big three predictions. And then, Sam Altman gets on the Twitter sphere and talks about how they're going to hit super intelligence before anybody else and blah, blah, blah. So that's one side of the coin. And I'll come back around to that because I have some take on that. The other side, we have the CEO of Google DeepMind, right? So basically, like the part of Google that builds Gemini and all the AI technologies. He is a Nobel Prize winner, right? So it's not like he's just an executive. He's like he's smart, right? And at least at one point was technical. And he says AI is nowhere near human level intelligence right now, and he doesn't see it going there in the foreseeable future. Then we have I always forget how to say his name, but Lee Canoon, or something like that. He was the Turing Award winner, which is basically a competition for innovative AI technologies. He's one of the world leaders out there. And I believe he was at Google DeepMind a long, long time ago. And then he more recently was at Meta, and then he's left Meta and started his own thing in the last, 12 months. So, but he said large language models will never achieve human level intelligence. It's his take. And his big takeaway is, while large language models may be able to master languages like English and that they actually don't have like a full 3D understanding of the universe or of like physical space. And so when we try to take LLMs and insert that into robotics are going to be unreliable, and that they're never going to have the same level of intelligence as humans because they just don't have that spatial intelligence going on. He even went so far to say that language is easy. Basically, it's like already a solved problem, but we're not going to get reliably laundry folding robots until we're able to get this kind of like physical space intelligence hammered out, which will require a different set of technologies than the large language models currently provide. Now, I just want to caveat this with a couple things, right? So, Lee Canoon's current startup is focusing on exactly what I just said, which is it's focusing on building models for 3D spatial analysis to be inserted into robots. So obviously he's got a financial incentive there as well as a pride incentive because he's more or less he got told to leave Meta, right? When the Llama 4 model came out and it didn't perform well, Zuckerberg basically burnt down the whole existing AI team, especially the leadership. He was not happy, and that was the beginning of the end for him there. So he was obviously incentivized to push this narrative. The Google DeepMind CEO's perspective on it's interesting because it really runs counter to what you would think he would say, because what would be financially advantageous for him is to say, like, yeah, we're going to be able to, like, cure all diseases using LLMs and all the other hype train stuff. But no, it's interesting that he's just, like, kind of a straight shooter. He's like, no, it's good at language, but it's not going to do everything. And then on the other side of the fence, you have, the CEO of OpenAI and the CEO of Anthropic, and they're getting these ridiculously high evaluations from VCs, right? And you can argue whether you think they're high or they're valid, or maybe you might even think they're low, right? But either way, there's a clear financial incentive in those guys hyping up that the existing technologies that they basically are leaders in are going to do everything in the future, because they're not going to get the same evaluation if they were to have talk about the limitations associated with the technology. So they're very financially incentivized to hype it up as much as possible. And I do think the CEO of Anthropic is a really good guy. I think he believes what he's saying, which is that there's going to be a lot of job loss in the future. Now, I don't personally, I understand his argument, but I don't personally believe that. I just feel like fundamentally there's so many things at companies that could add additional value that just get left by the wayside because nobody has time for that. Some portion of those tasks are going to be picked up in the future, so existing workers are going to get more productive. I do think there will be a lot of scaffolding built around the models, which is going to which is going to require at least vibe coders, if not legit real coders, to do. So while I think coding jobs are kind of taking a hit right now, I do think those are going to get back into fashion pretty fast, in 12 months from now. And then, I just generally believe that when there are resources on the table, and resource being like you have smart humans that are out of work, somebody's going to figure out a way to make money off of that, right? So, I believe that people are good at greed, so they'll figure out a way to maximize that. Anyways, what do you think, Shelby? Are you which camp are you in, and what do you think the timeline's going to look like?
Can you remind me about what or why you said, in your opinion, you think that coding will come back in style for humans?
Um, this is just my personal belief, and you can argue against it, or anyone can in the comment section below if they want to. But I think the labs are still making progress, but that they're not making progress as fast as they previously were. They have to now. They've been able to kind of cover that up a little bit by basically just burning cash. But if you actually look at like the cost to produce GPT-5 versus the cost to produce GPT-4, we're looking at about a 4x cost increase to when you scale everything back to the same sizes to generate the 5, right? Which tells me they had to increase compute 4x or cost 4x to get a step up that's not even like exponential. It's incremental at best, right? And I'm not saying it's not worth it. Like, I'm not trying to say that at all. But I am saying, like, based on what I've seen over the last 24 months, I don't see the hockey stick right now, which is fine. Because honestly, like, I think for like 80 to 90% of the tasks that we're going to be able to use LLMs for, the models we have today are good enough, right? The models are not the bottleneck. The bottleneck are organizational problems. Bottlenecks are people aren't trained on on all the capabilities and what they can do. And also, I just think there's a lot of technology that's been built in the pre-AI era, and there's going to be new technology that comes out that's going to be basically built around AI from the ground up, like AI native software. In the same way that you used to have software that went into data centers, and then the cloud came along, and then individuals that wrote software at that point in time that was cloud native was able to get a lot of value out of the cloud. And people who just like took their applications from the data center and shifted them into the cloud just usually ended up paying a lot more money for not a lot more service. And I think you're going to see the same thing. We're already seeing that with AI technologies, right? So you see the people who have had an app for 5 years, and now they're slapping a chatbot on top of it, and nobody cares, right? Nobody cares. Sorry, I'm not touching your chatbot. But then we see other companies that are like, they are like building an app from the ground up right now, and they're building LLM technology throughout it. It's being part of the decision-making models. It's being part of the ethos and how it works, how the workflows work, how it's adding value to the customers. I just think there's a lot of little tiny decision tree when you're building something for a consumer, something for the customer, that you're going to make different decisions now that you have the LLM technology. So, anyways, go. Sorry, that was more.
Oh no, you're good. And I think a lot of people have felt this way whenever there's a new technology that comes along, and not just in IT, but any sort of technology, being worried about their jobs. And like you said, I think some will experience heavy pruning, and I think others that we don't really think about will exist, right? Like how our children's children will have jobs that in the future that won't even think of as a job, because there are more needs and ways to add value than what we're doing right now, it seems like. And people will be creative and come up with new ways to add value, perhaps. I don't know. It
Yeah.
always amazes me when people think of like really unique ways to basically build a business, to build a living, that it's not like, 12 people who are doing that, right? When people come up with really creative ways to solve problems and provide a living for themselves, very cool. So I'm hoping that we'll see a shift in like how, I think it'll take some creative thinking, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's going to be change, but I think once we get through the short term heartburn, um, yeah, we're good. Society will be in a good spot. So, um, okay, that feels like that was my story. Do you have anything fun to share with us, Shelby?
A bit of a debate, really. Um, so when I think about an octopus,
Okay, yeah,
they've got
I'm with you. I'm with you.
yeah, we're, we're envisioning an octopus with all its arms, and I struggle to keep track of two. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I think, how nice would it be to have more arms or more bodies to be able to do more things in a day? But I think the limiting factor is right here, right between these 2 points. But it's pretty cool.
Hmm.
Have you heard this? Like you probably have. Maybe it's just a well-known thing. But octopuses. I don't think I can say that. Anyway,
Octopi.
an
Is that a single?
octopus.
An octopus.
We'll talk
Yeah.
about one single octopus. We'll name him Fred. So Fred has
We'll just call him Octi. Okay, go ahead. Fred. That sounds great. Okay, all right, all
Fred
right.
has 500 million neurons total.
He does? How many do humans have?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like,
According
is it smarter than me? It sounds like it from based on what I just heard.
Yeah, that's a good question. Someone's gonna have to go check that for us. But it is apparently roughly comparable to what a dog might have. Which I'm not
Oh,
even gonna go
really?
down that rabbit hole because I know different dogs have different intelligence levels. But
Yeah.
back to my
Not
friend
my
Fred the
dog.
octopus. Half of Fred's neurons are in his arms. So there's like a central
Really?
brain,
His
and
brain's in his arms?
yes, it's called like a mini brain. So like in each
Ooh.
of his 8 arms, there are a bunch of neurons which can control movement and process touch and other signals, as well as making short-term decisions without checking with the CEO, main brain.
Really? That is cool.
So like
I did not know that.
I was talking about this with someone, and they said, well, yes, my arm can also process touch and make motions before my brain processes. Because if I unsuspectingly lean up against a hot surface, and my arm is going to move before my brain knows what happened. So I was like, are we like octopi? Like, how much? I don't
I think
really
it's
understand the
different.
difference.
I think there's a fundamental difference,
Okay.
right? And I'm not a doctor, so I'm just speculating right now. But I feel like there's two things that would come into play in the human scenario, right? One is you touch the hot surface, that sends the signal to the brain, and the brain sends it back immediately, move the hand, right? Which happens so fast it feels instantaneous, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like being processed by your conscious, it's being processed by your subconscious. So I could see that being a viable scenario. I could also see the viable scenario of like there are things that like your body will do without the brain telling the body part to do it.
Yeah, like reflexes, right? Like it
Yeah,
just
like the
happens.
reflexes.
Your body just
Yeah.
does it.
Yeah, and I don't really understand reflexes. They seem like magic to me, but I know they exist because they hurt. And so I don't know. But I think the fundamental difference is like you're saying they have neurons in their tentacles, which
And I can
means
explain it a little more too.
yeah. Go ahead. That'd be great. Yeah, I'd love
So
to know more.
basically, brain is like your project manager, or I don't know how you want to think about it. Basically, they give high level instructions to the arms, such as like explore that area or bring food back. And then it is up to the arms to figure out the minutia, the small decisions to meet that high level goal of like exploring independently and finding out by touching what is here and observing, or like looking around to grip things, and suckers can taste and feel, right? And so it does all that processing. Like it's like distributed what is that? Distributed processing?
Yeah. Well, I think it's almost like I'm trying to figure out the model in my head. Like it could be like a hub and spoke system where like you have a master brain, but then you have like these other brains that are kind of like child to them in the off of each spoke, right? Or
Yeah.
I don't know the best way to describe that, but That's really interesting.
Yeah. And even
May,
more interesting is, well, kind of taking it another step further, if an octopus has an accident, loses a tentacle, loses one arm, it will
yeah,
continue to work independently for a little while.
really. Oh, like if you cut it off? Oh,
Yeah,
because
a
it's got its own
severed
brain.
arm will still react to touch and grip objects and things like that. But so it kind of shows
Hmm.
how much processing is happening locally.
Neurons are magic, man. I have
Anyway,
no idea
that's
what's
my
going on
facts for
there.
you. What you got for me?
That is a cool fact. I just want to relate that back to AI. Like I feel like the head of the octopus is like your agent, and then
Okay.
each tentacle is your sub agents.
There
You
we
know, like the
go.
main one's like telling them what to do, but it doesn't actually like micromanage as much, right?
Perfect.
Like that's kind of what I envisioned in my head when you were speaking. So yeah, yeah. Well, I just want to do a plug for this beautiful. We're not sponsored by this, by the way. So I like these drinks. These little like cherry buck drinks, and I think they're headquartered in Utah, like near Provo. Um,
Uh,
so I just want to do a plug for. It's called Bucked Up Energy Drinks, and I like the cherry candy red ones. So they have a bunch of other good flavors too.
I got really excited when you reached off camera. I thought you were going to grab another Lego creation. I think you're due for a Lego
Mm,
creation to cross the screen.
yeah,
Next time.
it's in works. The Lego. I'm not gonna try to pick it up now because it will crumble. But maybe by next week I'll have something more to show there on the Lego front. I usually have something I'm working on, but my output's about one Lego set per month. So you might have to wait. It might be another week or two.
Fair enough.
Um, okay, great. Well, if you guys got any comments or questions, feel free to drop them below. You know, if you felt like this was valuable, please click the subscribe button. Shelby and I are working hard to bring you constant flow content each week. And then, if you got a friend that wants to learn more about AI or just make fun of the fact that I don't know anything about octopi, share this over them. Send them a link, right? And yeah, we'll see you next time. Peace.